17 men, none of them supposed to be here, 3 miles from their objective. Equipment bundles lost. Officers scattered, radio dead, and the crossroads they were meant to seize held by a company of Germans who have no idea Easy Company just landed in their backyard. Sergeant William Guarnere checks his compass. It's pointing toward a town that isn't on his map. His stick of paratroopers, kids from Philadelphia, Texas, Montana, stare back at him in the darkness, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. He has no orders for this. No one does. June 6th, 1944, 0200 hours. Normandy, France. The 101st Airborne Division has just executed the largest airborne assault in history. 6,000 paratroopers dropped into occupied France with one mission: secure the causeways behind Utah Beach before dawn. If they fail, the amphibious invasion, 30,000 men hitting the beaches in 4 hours, dies on the shoreline. But the drop has shattered into chaos, anti-aircraft fire, evasive maneuvers, inexperienced pilots, clouds at jump altitude. The result? Paratroopers scattered across 150 square miles of Norman countryside. Some land in flooded marshes and drown under 60 pounds of equipment. Others come down in trees, on rooftops, in the middle of German bivouac areas. Command estimates 80% of the division has landed outside their designated drop zones, some by hundreds of yards, others by miles. Major General Maxwell Taylor, division commander, will later find himself with exactly 6 men out of the 6,000 under his command. The question facing every small group materializing in the French darkness isn't whether the plan has failed, it's whether they can improvise fast enough to accomplish the mission anyway. Before we understand how scattered paratroopers turned chaos into combat effectiveness, we need to understand what they were trained to do and what no training could prepare them for. The 101st Airborne Division earned its wings at Camp Toccoa, Georgia, where a simple doctrine governed every aspect of training. Airborne forces have no front line. Unlike conventional infantry that advances in organized waves, paratroopers are designed for disruption. Drop them behind enemy lines, let them create chaos, trust them to figure it out. Every man in the division completed the same brutal qualification: Fort Benning's jump school, 5 practice jumps, and realistic tactical problems that deliberately simulated isolation and confusion. The Pathfinder teams, elite volunteers who jumped first to mark drop zones, trained specifically to operate in 6-man elements. The riflemen who followed trained in 12-man sticks, the smallest tactical unit. Squad leaders learned to make decisions without waiting for orders. Privates learned to take command if everyone above them was killed or scattered. Colonel Robert Sink, commander of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, emphasized one principle above all others during training: find someone, find your objective, fight. Not regroup and await orders. Not establish communications. Not consolidate forces. Find someone. Establish immediate unit cohesion with whoever you land near, regardless of rank or unit assignment. Find your objective. Use terrain navigation, landmarks, intelligence briefings. Get there. Fight. Complete the mission with whatever force you can assemble. The 101st used crickets, handheld metal clickers, as recognition signals. 1 click, answered by 2. Simple. Effective in darkness, not infallible. They memorized passwords for June 6th. Challenge, flash, response, thunder. They studied maps, aerial photographs, sand table mock-ups of Norman villages. They rehearsed objectives until men could navigate them blindfolded. But no one trained them for what it feels like when 17 men land and 0 of them can see the landmarks they memorized. When the compass bearing to your objective leads through unknown territory, potentially crawling with enemy forces. When you're supposed to be part of a 120-man assault and you have 1 machine gun team and 15 riflemen.
Private David Kenyon Webster, 506th PIR, wrote in his diary before the jump, "We know the plan. We know what can go wrong. What we don't know is whether we'll improvise or panic." Dawn breaks at 5:58 hours. The causeways must be secured before then. It's 0200 hours. For scattered groups of paratroopers materializing in Norman darkness, the improvisation has already begun. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Drop Zone A, 502nd PIR, secures northern causeways at Fouquerville. Drop Zone C, 506th PIR, takes crossroads at Vierville and Saint-Côme-du-Mont. Drop Zone D, 501st PIR, seizes southern causeways near Poop. Pathfinders mark zones with Eureka radar beacons and T-shaped light patterns. Main force follows. By 0400 hours, organized battalions hold their objectives. By dawn, the beach exits are secured. The 101st planned for 15% casualties on the jump. They accepted scattered drops of up to 1,000 yards as inevitable. What happens instead tears the plan into confetti. C-47 transport formations break apart over the Cotentin Peninsula. Clouds obscure ground references. German anti-aircraft batteries erupt in streams of tracers, terrifying to pilots, many flying combat for the first time. Evasive maneuvers scatter formations. Some pilots accelerate to 150 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour too fast for safe exit. Others climb to 2,000 feet, 700 feet too high to escape flak. Paratroopers exit into chaos. High speed means violent prop blast. High altitude means longer exposure under canopy. Some men's chutes don't fully deploy before they hit hedgerows. Others drift for over a minute, German fire tracking them down. The Pathfinders, the men supposed to mark zones, miss their marks entirely. Some land miles away. Others are killed before they can set up beacons. The Eureka radars malfunction or fall into marshes. The T-shaped light patterns that were supposed to orient follow-on waves never materialize. Result? 6,000 men scattered across 150 square miles of enemy-occupied territory.
Sergeant Guarnere's stick exits their C-47 at 0143 hours, 7 minutes behind schedule. He counts 13 canopies deploying around him, sees tracers stitching through the formations ahead, hears the crump of artillery, German batteries firing at the sound of aircraft engines. Then he hits the ground hard, his chute collapsing into a hedgerow. 60 seconds of vulnerability, harness release. Weapon assembly, his Thompson submachine gun packed in a padded case strapped to his leg. Cricket out. Equipment check. One click into the darkness. Silence. Another click. Longer. From his left, 2 clicks. Private Antonio Garcia materializes from shadow. Then Private James Miller. Then Lieutenant Thomas Meehan. No, not Meehan. Meehan was piloting a glider that took flak over the channel. This is Lieutenant Richard Winters, Executive Officer of Easy Company, 506th PIR. Within 10 minutes, 17 men assemble. 4 from Easy Company, 6 from Dog Company, 5 from Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 2 from Regimental Headquarters. Men who trained together, but were never meant to fight together. Winters pulls out his map, shielding a red-filtered flashlight, studies terrain, checks compass bearing. We're 3 miles southeast of DZC, he says quietly, closer to Saint-Marie-du-Mont than Vierville. Their objective, the crossroads at Saint-Côme-du-Mont, lies northwest. Between here and there, unknown number of German positions, unknown terrain, and dawn approaching in 3 hours and 58 minutes. Winters makes the decision every scattered officer across Normandy is making in this moment. We move toward the objective, we link up with whoever we find, we complete the mission. The hedgerows make navigation a nightmare. Norman bocage, centuries-old agricultural boundaries, earth berms 4 feet high, topped with dense brush and trees. Every field a separate fortress with limited visibility and fewer exit points. Perfect defensive terrain, impossible for coordinated movement.
Winters' ad hoc squad moves in single file along a dirt track. Point man 20 yards ahead, rear guard watching their back. Standard tactical spacing, but nothing else about this is standard. They've been moving 15 minutes when the point man, Private Garcia, raises his fist. Everyone freezes. Voices ahead. German. Winters crawls forward, peers through the hedge line, sees a farmhouse 75 yards away, lights burning in windows. 6 Wehrmacht soldiers around a field kitchen, rifles stacked. cooking breakfast. The tactical problem is immediate. Germans, between them and the objective, can't bypass. The track is the only clear route through the bocage. Can't wait. Dawn approaching. Can't call for support. They are the support. Scattered and alone. 17 Americans. 6 Germans, but in a fortified position with unknown reinforcements potentially nearby. Guarnere crawls up beside Winters. Whispers, "We take them?" Winters studies the scene, calculates. The mission isn't to kill Germans. It's to reach the crossroads. Every minute spent in firefights is a minute the causeways remain unsecured. Every shot risks alerting other German positions. But that farmhouse sits on their route, and those Germans, left behind their movement, become a threat to anyone else trying to navigate this sector. We take them, Winters decides, fast and quiet. He splits the group, 10 men with him, flanking right through a drainage ditch, 7 with Guarnere, flanking left through the hedge line. Machine gun team, Privates Lipton and Malarkey, sets up with overlapping fields of fire. Signal, cricket click, they move. The Wehrmacht soldiers never hear them coming. One moment they're heating coffee and laughing about the bomber sounds that woke them an hour ago. The next, 17 rifles are pointed at them from 3 directions. Hände hoch, Winters shouts. Hands up. 5 Germans freeze, hands rising. The 6th reaches for a rifle. Guarnere's Thompson chatters. Short burst. The German drops. The others' hands shoot higher.
Total elapsed time, 45 seconds. 1 enemy casualty. 0 friendly casualties. Prisoners secured with parachute cord. Left in the farmhouse with a warning in broken German. Stay here, stay quiet. Stay alive. The squad pushes forward. They've gained a route, but lost stealth. Gunfire echoes across hedgerows. Every German position within a mile now knows Americans are moving through the sector. At 0227 hours, they hear it. More gunfire northwest. American weapons. M1 Garan's distinctive ping. Thompson's staccato bark. Other scattered groups, converging on their own objectives, creating their own firefights. The chaos is spreading, and in that chaos, something unexpected is emerging. By 0245 hours, Winters' 17-man element has become 32. They link up with Lieutenant Harry Welsh and 14 men from Easy Company's 1st Platoon, also wildly off target. Welsh landed in a tree, hung for 10 minutes cutting himself down, assembled his stick by cricket clicks, and has been moving toward the sound of American gunfire. Then a 6-man Pathfinder team from the 502nd PIR, supposed to be marking Drop Zone A 5 miles north, their Eureka beacons smashed on landing, their lieutenant killed by sniper fire. Sergeant Don Malarkey leading them south toward any objective they can find. 32 men. Still 40% understrength for a normal rifle company, but more than anyone expected to assemble in the scattered darkness. More importantly, they now have 2 officers, 4 sergeants, 1 medic, 2 machine gun teams, 1 bazooka team, and a radio. Damaged, but possibly repairable. Winters calls a hasty conference at a crossroads. Map on the ground. Red flashlight. 5 minutes maximum. Staying static invites mortar fire. Our primary objective is St. Côme-du-Mont crossroads, 2 miles northwest. But between here and there, he taps the map, is Brecourt Manor, 4 German 105mm artillery pieces. They've been shelling Utah Beach for the last hour. Welsh confirms it. They've heard the guns firing, seen muzzle flashes. The tactical calculus shifts. The crossroads is a strategic objective, but those artillery pieces are an immediate threat. Every shell landing on Utah Beach kills Americans struggling ashore. 4 guns, probably a platoon defending them, maybe 40 Germans, against 32 scattered, lightly equipped paratroopers with no heavy weapon support. This is the moment where doctrine collides with reality. Standard protocol: report enemy positions, avoid engagement, proceed to primary objective. Let follow-on forces or air support deal with unexpected targets. But there are no follow-on forces coming. Air support won't be available until after dawn. The radios are mostly dead, and those guns will keep firing until someone stops them. Private Webster, crouched in the ditch, watches Winters make the decision that hundreds of scattered officers across Normandy are making in parallel. Improvise. We take the guns, Winters says, then we proceed to the crossroads.
It's not recklessness, it's arithmetic. Those 4 German guns outweigh the strategic value of one crossroads. Stop them, and hundreds of Americans survive the beach landing, maybe thousands. Miss the crossroads by an hour? Someone else in the scattered 101st will reach it eventually. Guarnere grins in the darkness. About time we got to shoot back. They move toward Brecourt Manor in 2 columns, using hedgerows for concealment. The guns are louder now. Rhythmic thunder, 4 pieces firing in sequence. Muzzle flashes silhouette a tree line 400 yards ahead. At 03:12 hours, they reach a position overlooking the German battery. 4 105mm howitzers dug into earthen revetments in a rough line, connected with communication trenches. Each gun crew, 6 men. Infantry support positions on the flanks. Ammunition dump in a barn 50 yards behind the guns. Maybe 50 Germans total, alert and organized. The Americans have surprise, darkness, and desperation, not much else.
Winters divides the force again. Machine gun teams establish a base of fire on the approach, suppress the gun crews, prevent reinforcement. Assault teams of 6 men each, targeting guns sequentially. Bazooka team to destroy ammunition dump. Medic and radio operators stay back as casualty collection point. We move fast, Winters briefs. 1 gun at a time. Grenades first, then close assault. Don't stop moving. Stopped means dead. At 03:19 hours, they attack. Machine guns open up. Tracers rake the German positions. Confusion in the enemy lines. Where are the Americans? How many? Muzzle flashes from 3 directions create the illusion of a much larger force. Winters leads the first assault team forward. Low crawl through tall grass. 50 yards. 30. 20. German voices shouting in the trenches. Officers trying to organize defense against an unseen enemy. 15 yards. Winters pulls a grenade, pulls pin, throws. The explosion rips through the first gun position. He's up and running. Thompson firing. 3 Germans down. 1 escaping through the communication trench. Winters shoots him in the back. No room for mercy when you're outnumbered. The first gun is silent. Second assault team, Guarnere leading, hits the second gun position 20 seconds later. Same technique. Grenades, then assault. Germans return fire, but they're shooting at shadows and muzzle flashes. The Americans are moving too fast, using darkness and chaos as weapons. Second gun, down. Then it gets complicated. The Germans realize they're under coordinated attack and respond with professional competence. Flares pop overhead. Suddenly the battlefield is illuminated in harsh magnesium white. The Americans, caught mid-assault, are exposed in open ground. Machine gun fire from positions Winters didn't know existed. Grazing fire 6 inches above the ground. Winters' team hits the dirt. Can't advance, can't retreat without being cut down. Private Lipton, manning one of the American machine guns, takes shrapnel in the shoulder. His gun goes silent. Now the Germans can shift fire.
A German counterattack materializes from the barn. The infantry support element, maybe 15 men, moving to retake the first 2 gun positions. They have the advantage. Interior lines, superior numbers at the point of contact, defensive positions to fall back to. Winters is pinned down with 6 men, 50 yards from the 3rd gun. Guarnere's team is cut off near the 2nd gun, taking enfilade fire from both flanks. Welsh's reserve element can't advance without crossing a killing zone. Ammunition checks. Running low. Winters has 2 magazines left, 30 rounds. Guarnere's Thompson is down to 1 magazine, 20 rounds. The bazooka team still hasn't engaged the ammunition dump. They can't get a clear shot through the hedgerows and earthworks, and dawn is 127 minutes away. If they're still pinned here at first light, German reinforcements will arrive and wipe them out. This is the moment when scattered improvisation hits its limit, when audacity meets professional enemy resistance, when 32 men discover that courage can't overcome geometry and firepower. Winters lies in the grass, German tracers snapping overhead, and realizes they're about to fail. Not die necessarily. They might extract with acceptable casualties, but fail to silence the guns, fail to stop the artillery from killing men on Utah Beach, fail the mission. Then Private Walter Gordon does something no training exercise ever prepared them for. Gordon, a replacement, 3 weeks with Easy Company, never been in combat before tonight, sees the tactical problem with fresh eyes. Everyone is focused on the guns.
The assault teams attacking forward, the base of fire suppressing from the flanks, the Germans defending the gun positions. But the ammunition dump is the linchpin. Those guns can't fire without shells. The barn is the center of German logistics. Gordon grabs the bazooka from Private Malarkey, who's been trying to find a shot for 5 minutes, and does something insane. He stands up in the middle of the firefight.
Stands, shoulders the bazooka, aims at the barn 120 yards away. German fire immediately shifts toward him. Tracers converging, but he's already squeezing the trigger. The rocket whooshes across the field, impacts the barn's wooden wall, detonates inside. For 1 second, nothing. Then the ammunition dump explodes. Not Hollywood explosion, this is physics. Stored artillery shells detonating in sympathetic detonation, a pressure wave that knocks men flat 80 yards away, flame and shrapnel and thunderclap concussion. The barn disintegrates. The German counterattack from that direction, 15 men, is shredded by their own munitions. Gordon drops flat. German fire tears apart the space where he stood 2 seconds ago, but he's already crawling to cover, alive against all probability. The German defense collapses into chaos. Their ammunition resupply route destroyed. Their support infantry decimated. Officers shouting contradictory orders in the smoke and confusion. Winters recognizes the opportunity, the fleeting moment when an enemy transitions from organized defense to survival mode. He's up and running toward the 3rd gun position. His team follows. Welsh's reserve element advances to support. The Germans at the 3rd gun try to traverse the howitzer, to fire directly at the charging Americans with canister shot. They're cranking the elevation wheel when Guarnere's team hits them from the flank. Close quarters, rifles, grenades, knives. Brutal and fast. 3rd gun silenced. The 4th gun crew, watching their ammunition dump explode, watching 3 positions overrun, makes the rational decision. They run, abandon the gun, flee northeast toward German lines. Winters lets them go. Pursuing would waste time and invite ambush. At 0347 hours, the last German artillery piece falls silent. 32 American paratroopers, none of whom were supposed to be here, none of whom trained together, cobbled together from scattered sticks across 3 companies, have destroyed a 4-gun battery and killed or captured 47 German soldiers.
American casualties: 4 wounded, none killed. 1 bazooka round expended. Approximately 800 rounds of small arms ammunition. The guns that were shelling Utah Beach, killing men struggling across open sand, are silent. Lieutenant Winters kneels beside Private Gordon, who's shaking with adrenaline crash. That, Winters says quietly, was either the bravest thing or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Gordon manages a weak grin. I figured the bazooka would probably miss, but if I missed standing up, I'd miss lying down too. At least standing up I could see. Winters laughs, the kind of laughter that comes after almost dying. Well, don't do it again. No, sir. Once was enough. They consolidate position, treat wounded, redistribute ammunition from German dead. Welsh finally gets the radio working, crackling, intermittent, but functional. Raises someone on the net. Not their battalion, not even their regiment, but American voices, reporting similar situations across the drop zone. Scattered groups, improvised assaults, objectives seized by understrength elements that weren't supposed to be there. At 0410 hours, Winters' combined force, now down to 28 effectives after leaving security teams with the wounded, continues northwest toward Saint-Côme-du-Mont. They're still 3 miles from their assigned objective, but they're moving, they're fighting, they're completing missions. The guns are silent. That's what matters. By 0600 hours, 2 minutes after sunrise, scattered elements of the 101st Airborne have achieved something military analysts will study for decades: mission accomplishment through chaos. Not despite the scattered drop, because of it. The numbers tell part of the story. Of 6,600 paratroopers dropped into Normandy, approximately 1,500 are killed or captured in the first 24 hours. Brutal casualties. But the remaining 5,100, scattered across 150 square miles, in groups ranging from 2 men to 200, seize or contest every major objective. The causeways behind Utah Beach secured, not by organized battalion assaults, by improvised company and platoon-sized elements that converged from unexpected directions. Sainte-Marie-du-Mont captured by 0800 hours by a mixed force from 3 different regiments, none operating under their assigned command structure. The crossroads at Saint-Côme-du-Mont, contested throughout D-Day, finally secured by evening. Winter's 32-man element reaches the position at 0645 hours, links up with 150 other scattered paratroopers who arrived from different directions, and participates in an all-day battle that pins down German reinforcements that would otherwise have counterattacked Utah Beach. German commanders report catastrophic confusion. Their intelligence said American paratroopers would drop in organized formations at specific zones. Instead, they're everywhere. Small groups attacking supply lines, blocking roads, cutting communications, ambushing isolated positions. The Germans can't form coherent defensive lines because Americans are already behind them, beside them, in their rear areas. Major Friedrich von der Heydte, commanding German paratroopers defending against the 101st, writes in his after-action report, "The American airborne invasion was either brilliant improvisation or catastrophic disorganization that somehow succeeded. I still cannot determine which. The answer is both. The scattered drop that killed 1,500 Americans also created 5,100 separate points of disruption. The Germans couldn't predict where attacks would come from because the Americans didn't know themselves until they landed. The chaos became a weapon. Recognition was slow in coming. Winters receives the Distinguished Service Cross for the Brecourt Manor action, second highest award for valor. Private Gordon receives the Silver Star. The action is documented in post-war analysis as a textbook example of small unit leadership under impossible conditions. But for most scattered paratroopers, recognition is simpler. They survived. They accomplished missions. They improvised when plans dissolved. Private David Webster, who jumped with the 506th and spent D-Day fighting alongside men he'd never met, writes in his diary on June 7th, "Yesterday I learned that rank means nothing and plans mean less. What matters is finding someone who'll fight beside you, figuring out where you need to go, and going there. Everything else is theory." The fates of Winters' improvised element scatter as randomly as the drop itself. Lieutenant Winters survives the war, returns to Pennsylvania, lives quietly until his death in 2011, becomes the subject of Stephen Ambrose's book and the HBO series Band of Brothers, which immortalizes the Brecourt Manor action. Private Walter Gordon survives Normandy, killed in Operation Market Garden, September 1944, by German tank fire during the Arnhem Bridge assault. Sergeant William Guarnere loses his right leg at Bastogne, survives, returns to Philadelphia, lives until 2014. Private David Webster survives the war, becomes a writer, drowns in a swimming accident in 1961. Of the 32 men who assaulted Brecourt Manor, 19 survive the war, 13 do not. The 4 105mm howitzers remain where they were silenced, captured intact, documented by American intelligence, eventually melted for scrap. 64 hours after the drop, the 101st Airborne consolidates its scattered elements, reconstitutes battalions, counts losses, assesses what happened. The official after-action report notes the scattered nature of the drop, while catastrophic to planned operations, created unpredictable tactical advantages. Enemy forces were unable to concentrate against organized American formations because none existed in traditional form. Small unit leaders demonstrated exceptional initiative and tactical flexibility. It's a polite way of saying the plan failed, but the paratroopers didn't.
The Normandy drop becomes doctrine. Before June 6, 1944, military theory emphasized concentration of force. Drop paratroopers in tight formations, maximize combat power at the objective, execute synchronized assaults. The scattered Normandy drop was considered a near disaster in planning circles. After June 6th, that theory changes. Post-war analysis by the U.S. Army Airborne Board studies exactly what happened when 6,600 paratroopers landed in the wrong places. The findings reshape airborne doctrine for the next 3 decades. Finding 1. Dispersed landings create disproportionate disruption. German forces in Normandy outnumbered American paratroopers 5-1 in the drop zones, but because paratroopers were scattered across 150 square miles, Germans perceived American strength as much larger. They couldn't concentrate forces without leaving other sectors vulnerable to American groups they couldn't locate. Finding 2. Small unit leadership is force multiplier. The American emphasis on leadership at squad and platoon level, in contrast to German top-down command structure, enabled scattered groups to function effectively without higher headquarters guidance. German units of equivalent size, separated from their commanders, frequently became combat ineffective. American paratroopers didn't. Finding 3. Mission-focused initiative overcomes tactical disadvantage. Groups that oriented towards objectives, even wrong objectives, remained combat effective. Groups that attempted to reconstitute their original units wasted critical hours trying to find men who were miles away or dead. These lessons influence airborne operations in Korea, Vietnam, and beyond. The 101st specifically internalizes the Normandy experience into its training. Leaders at every level learn to operate independently, prioritize mission over formation integrity, and improvise with available resources. Modern paratroopers train for dispersion as a feature, not a bug. The causeways behind Utah Beach, the strategic objective for which 1,500 paratroopers died, remain intact through D-Day. By evening, the 4th Infantry Division links up with scattered 101st elements. 34,000 men cross those causeways in the first 48 hours. Had the 101st failed, had those causeways been blown or held by organized German defenders, historians estimate Utah Beach casualties would have tripled. The entire Cotentin Peninsula campaign delays by weeks. The war perhaps extends months longer. One group of 17 men, landing 3 miles from their objective, destroying a German artillery battery that wasn't on their mission list, probably saved hundreds of lives on Utah Beach. Multiply that by hundreds of similar groups, and the strategic impact becomes staggering. The 101st Airborne fights through France, Holland, and Belgium. By the time they're surrounded at Bastogne in December 1944, the division has perfected the art of improvised defense. When German forces offer surrender terms, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe replies with one word: nuts. That response, defiant, colloquial, utterly American, captures the spirit forged on D-Day, when scattered paratroopers refuse to let scattered drops become scattered defeats. The modern 101st Airborne Division, now air assault rather than parachute infantry, helicopters instead of C-47s, maintains traditions rooted in Normandy. Unit mottos emphasize initiative, flexibility, and mission accomplishment under adverse conditions. Fort Campbell's Jump Master School teaches the Normandy drop as both cautionary tale and inspiration. Even when everything goes wrong, you can still accomplish the mission if you refuse to quit. Private Webster's observation, rank means nothing and plans mean less, becomes unofficially embedded in 101st culture, not as license for chaos, but as recognition that leadership and improvisation matter more than position and preparation. 17 men who landed in the wrong place. No one planned for them to assault Brecourt Manor. No one expected them to find each other in darkness. No one trained them to operate as a mixed unit element from 3 different companies. But they found someone to fight beside. They found an objective that needed taking. They fought. That's the answer to what happens when paratroopers land in the wrong drop zone. They don't panic. They don't surrender to circumstance. They don't wait for the plan to reassemble itself. They improvise. Private Walter Gordon, standing upright with a bazooka while machine gun tracers converged on him, embodied everything the 101st Airborne proved in Normandy. Courage isn't following the plan. Courage is making a new plan when the old one shatters on contact with reality. Colonel Robert Sink, reflecting on the Normandy operation in 1945, said, "We dropped 6,000 men into darkness and chaos. We expected to lose half of them. Instead, we gained an army of leaders who learned that every paratrooper is his own commander when he hits the ground. That's not chaos, that's doctrine. The guns at Brecourt Manor remain silent. The crossroads are held, the causeways are secured, not because the drop went according to plan, because thousands of scattered paratroopers refused to let it fail. The Screaming Eagles Chronicles preserves these stories, the scattered drops, the improvised battles, the moments when ordinary men became extraordinary leaders because they had no other choice. If this story reminded you why the 101st Airborne earned its legacy one scattered firefight at a time, subscribe to see more untold stories from America's most decorated division, more episodes on Normandy, Market Garden, Bastogne, and the operations that never made the history books, coming soon.